Welcome to Talk Treatises.
Hey there.
Today, we are not just wading into the shallow end of the pool. We are diving into what might be the deepest, most crushing abyss in the history of Western thought.
That's one way to put it.
We are talking about a book that has been called The Pinnacle of German Idealism, a text that completely changed how we think about thinking itself. We're unpacking Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel's The Logic.
And specifically, we're looking at the version from his Encyclopedia of the Philosophical Sciences. This isn't the massive earlier Science of Logic, but the tighter, maybe even more potent version he wrote as a manual.
For his students.
For his students, yeah.
Okay, and before anyone turns the volume down because they heard Hegel and immediately got a headache, let's just set the stage here.
Please.
This is a book that claims to map out the very mind of God before the creation of the world. It's high IQ, it's rigorous, but we are going to break it down. Because the problem Hegel's trying to solve is, I think, one we still feel today.
Oh, absolutely. The fragmentation of thought.
The fragmentation of thought.
Exactly. Before this work, philosophy was just stuck in these rigid dualisms. You had mind versus matter, subject versus object, God versus the world. It was this fractured picture of reality.
And Hegel's mission was to unify all that.
It was a mission, yes, to unify it all through what he called the science of the pure idea.
So what's the bumper sticker here? If we had to boil this incredibly dense text down to one sentence, what is the thesis?
The central thesis is this: the rational is actual, and the actual is rational.
Okay, let's unpack that immediately, because that sounds like a riddle, or, worse, it sounds like a justification for every terrible thing in the world.
It's often taken that way, but that's a huge misunderstanding. It means that logic isn't just a tool we use to argue or organize our grocery lists.
Right.
Logic is the fundamental structure of reality itself. The world isn't a random mess. It follows a rational structure.
And the other way around.
And conversely, reason isn't just something in our heads. It's out there, embedded in the fabric of the world.
So when we study logic, we aren't just studying how to think. We're studying the architecture of existence itself.
Precisely. Hegel even goes so far as to say that logic represents the thoughts of God before the creation of nature and a finite mind.
Wow.
Yeah. He thinks if you strip away the physical universe, the logical structure that's left is the blueprint of divinity.
That is a massive claim. But before we get into the gears of how this machine works, let's look at the man himself when he wrote this. You said this was a manual.
Yes. And this context is fascinating. This version was written while Hegel was the rector of a gymnasium, so essentially a high school principal in Nuremberg.
A high school principal?
He wasn't in some lofty university chair at this point. He was a schoolmaster. He was literally teaching this to teenagers.
Can you imagine being a teenager in 1817 Nuremberg and your principal, Herr Hegel, hands you the science of the pure idea as your textbook?
I mean, my physics class was hard enough.
Right.
But it puts the text in a different light. Hegel himself said that in this book, Pegasus is put in harness. He had to take these soaring, infinite concepts and, constrain them into concise paragraphs for his students.
So it's dense, but it's structured.
Incredibly dense, but it forces a kind of discipline that his earlier, more flowing works didn't always have.
Okay, so to understand why this was so revolutionary, we have to look at what everybody else was doing. What was the State of the Union for philosophy before Hegel dropped this bomb?
Hegel breaks it down into three attitudes of thought that came before him. First, you had the old metaphysics.
Pre-Kant.
The pre-Kant way of thinking, exactly. It was a bit naive. It just assumed you could think about things like God or the soul and grasp them directly.
Like a geometry problem.
Like a geometry problem. Treating God like a triangle. Proofs and theorems, it was dogmatic.
And then the pendulum swung.
All the way to the second attitude. Empiricism.
Which is what most of us are familiar with today.
Right.
Show me the data.
Right. If you can't see it, touch it, or measure it, it's not real. Hegel gives empiricism credit for promoting freedom of thought because it forces you to see for yourself.
Yeah.
But he criticizes it because it denies the supersensible. You can't touch freedom or God or justice with your hands, so empiricism just tends to dismiss them.
Which leads us to the giant of the era, Immanuel Kant.
Kant and critical philosophy. Hegel has such a complicated relationship with him. He respects the critical turn, but he also mocks it brilliantly.
How so?
Well, Kant wanted to examine the instrument of knowledge, our mind, before we actually used it to know things. He wanted to check if the tool was working before starting the job.
That sounds reasonable, though. Calibrate the telescope before looking at the stars.
It does, until you hear the analogy Hegel uses. He says Kant's approach is like a man resolving not to go into the water until he has learned to swim.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
You can't learn to swim sitting on the bank studying buoyancy. You just have to get wet.
Precisely. You can only examine knowledge by knowing. You can't step outside your own mind to check it.
So there was a third attitude as well.
Yes, immediate knowledge. Or intuition. Think of thinkers like Jacobi. They got tired of all the logic and arguing and just said, we know the truth by faith, or, a gut feeling.
The I feel it in my bones school of philosophy.
That's the one. And Hegel just tears this apart. He argues that what you think is a gut feeling is actually the result of your education, your culture, your whole life history. It's lazy to just say, I know it intuitively, and refuse to explain it.
So he dismisses the naive, the empiricists, the hesitant Kantians, and the gut checkers. He clears the deck for his own system.
The logic. And he starts with a preliminary notion that completely redefines truth itself.
Okay, this is crucial.
For Hegel, truth isn't just a picture matching a face. It's not just the cat is on the mat. Is true if there's a cat on the mat. That's mere correctness.
So what is it then?
For Hegel, truth is the agreement of a content with itself.
Give me a real-world example of that.
Okay, take the idea of a true friend. A person exists. But are they a true friend?
What?
They are only a true friend if their actions agree with the concept, the notion of friendship. If they betray you, they still exist, but they are untrue.
And this connects back to that controversial thesis. What is actual is rational.
It does. And this is where he distinguishes between actuality and mere existence.
Wait, so something can exist but not be actual?
In his terminology, yes. A bad state, like a corrupt dictatorship or a sick body, certainly exists. You can point to it.
But it's not true.
It's untrue. Because a sick body doesn't match the harmonious notion of a body. It lacks actuality in the higher sense. It's irrational, and therefore it's transient. It's on its way to falling apart.
So when he says the actual is rational, he's not saying everything that happens is good. He's saying that only the things that align with reason have staying power. The rest is just
debris. Debris that is destined to perish. The actual is that which is effective and enduring because it aligns with reason.
All right, let's get into the machinery. The logic is in three parts: being, essence, and the notion. Let's start with part one, the doctrine of being.
He begins at the very, very beginning. Pure being.
So what is that?
Imagine a thought stripped of every single feature. No color, no size, no time, no quality. Just.
It's indeterminate. It's empty.
And this leads to the first great dialectical shift. If you think of pure being that has no features, what are you actually thinking of?
Nothing.
Exactly. Pure being, in its total abstraction, is indistinguishable from nothing. They flip into each other. If I say, think of everything without any specifics, your mind is just blank. You're thinking of nothing.
So being and nothing are the same. That sounds insane.
They're the same in this very specific abstract sense, but the truth isn't being, and it isn't nothing. The truth is the movement between them.
The transition.
Yes. When nothing passes into being, or being passes into nothing, what do we call that?
Succumbing?
Becoming. That is the first concrete thought. Everything in the world is a mix of being and nothing. Everything is coming to be or passing away. This is the heartbeat of the dialectic right at the very start.
Okay, so we move from this abstract start into quality, what a thing is, and then quantity, how much there is. And this brings us to a concept I found really practical: measure.
Measure, the synthesis of quality and quantity. We tend to think quantity doesn't change quality. If I have a pile of wheat and I add 1 grain, it's still just a pile of wheat.
But Hegel brings up the paradox of the heap.
Exactly. You keep adding single grains, a quantitative change, and eventually, boom, you have a heap. The quality changes. Or the bald tail. Pull one hair, it's not bald. Pull another.
But eventually it is. The quantity tips over into a new quality.
It's a tipping point. Think of water temperature. You lower it degree by degree, pure quantity, but at 0 degrees Celsius, suddenly the quality shifts entirely. It becomes ice.
And that tipping point moves us from the surface level of being into the second part, the doctrine of essence.
Right. Essence is the realm of reflection. It's mediated. Think of it like looking in a mirror. You aren't just seeing the object, you're seeing the reflection, the relationship.
And here he starts analyzing the laws of thought, like identity.
Yes. The old logic that says A equals A, thing is what it is.
And Hegel has a problem with that.
He thinks it's empty. He says in reality, identity implies difference. There's no such thing as two identical drops of water. If they are distinct enough to be counted as two, they are different.
This leads to his critique of the thing in itself. This idea that we can see properties but never know the thing underneath.
Hegel hates that idea. He says if you strip away all the properties, the color, the weight, the shape, to find the true thing underneath, what do you have left?
Nothing.
Exactly. The properties are the thing. There is no secret, mystical core hiding behind the curtain. The curtain is the reality.
Which connects to his view on people, too, the inner and outer. We love to say, oh, he has a beautiful soul. He acts like a jerk.
Hegel would say, no.
No.
A person is what they do. The inner and outer are identical. There is no inner genius that never manifests in outer work. If you don't paint, you aren't a painter, no matter how long you feel like one inside.
That is harsh, but it's also incredibly clarifying. It removes all the excuses.
It demands that essence must appear. And this interaction of forces leads to causality and the problem of infinite regression. A caused B, which was caused by C, and so on forever.
Well, Hegel solves with reciprocity.
Yes, action and reaction. It's not a straight line, it's a circle of influence. The cause influences the effect, and the effect influences the cause.
Which sets the stage for the final highest level. We've had being, we've had essence, now we get to part 3. The doctrine of the notion.
The notion, or the concept, it's the synthesis, the realm of freedom. It is at home with itself and its other.
Okay, this is getting abstract again. Let's ground it.
Yeah.
It talks about objectivity here. Mechanism, chemism, and teleology.
He's describing how a rational concept interacts with the world. First, you have mechanism. Think of gears or billiard balls. They relate externally, they push and pull, but they stay separate.
Then chemism.
Chemism is deeper. Objects seek each other out based on affinity, like acids and bases. They have an inherent drive to connect and merge.
But the highest form is teleology, design.
Right. In teleology, the purpose is internal. The end goal drives the process. And this brings us to one of his most brilliant concepts, the cunning of reason.
The cunning of reason. It sounds like a spy novel.
It sort of explains how history works. Reason, the rational structure of the world, doesn't always get its hands dirty. It uses objects and people as means.
So historical figures or even just regular people pursuing their own passions.
Exactly. Hegel says God lets men do as they please with their particular passions. We chase money, fame, power, we fight, we wear ourselves out. But the result of all that friction
is the accomplishment of reason's plan.
Yes.
Wow.
Reason uses our own selfish drives against each other to build something higher, something we didn't even intend.
So Napoleon thought he was conquering Europe for his own glory.
But Hegel would say he was actually just the tool reason used to spread the Napoleonic Code and modern statehood.
That is both terrifying and kind of comforting. And this all culminates in the idea.
The idea is the unity of the notion and objectivity. It starts as life, moves to cognition and volition-seeking truth in the good, and ends in the absolute idea.
Which is the method itself.
It is the method itself. The absolute idea is the realization that the content of philosophy is its own method. It is self-thinking thought.
It's a circle.
Philosophy is a circle. The end loops back to the beginning. We return to being, but now we understand it. We see the whole structure.
Let's talk about the dialectic. People often get this wrong. They think it's just a debate trick. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis.
Right, and he rarely used those exact terms in that mechanical way. For Hegel, dialectic is the moving soul of reality. It's not just how we argue, it's how things are.
Like the seed.
Exactly. For a seed to become a plant, it has to perish as a seed. It has to negate itself to become its higher self. Life comes through the negative.
Or in politics.
Anarchy and despotism. They are extremes that flip into one another. Or the legal saying, he quotes, summum jus, summa injuria. Extreme justice is extreme injustice. Reality is fluid. It moves through contradictions.
So what this all means for us is we can't look at the world as a static collection of things. It's a process.
And it's a rational process. Even the messy parts are part of the cunning of reason working itself out.
Right. This is the part of the show where we take these 19th century German concepts and test them to their breaking point. It's time for our thought experiments.
And the disclaimer. These are for entertainment and educational purposes only. We are applying Hegelian logic to scenarios he definitely did not foresee.
Definitely not. Okay, experiment number 1, the nothing chamber.
Imagine we take a sentient mind and place it in a void of absolute pure being.
Okay, so perfect whiteness.
Yeah.
Infinite, undifferentiated light. No sound, no borders, no up or down, just...
According to Hegel's first chapter, what does that mind experience?
Well, it sees white.
But if there is only white, and no contrast, no edge, no shadow. Logically and psychologically, the mind experiences nothing.
Because to see something, you need to see what it is not.
Exactly. Pure being is indistinguishable from pure nothing. The mind would just go blank. But here's the twist.
The twist.
The moment the mind notices a speck of dust, or a slight dimming of the light, or even a floater in their own eye,
A difference, a limit.
a determination, and suddenly becoming occurs, reality snaps into existence because of that limit. It proves his point. You need the negative to have the positive.
That is trippy. Okay, experiment number 2. The cunning of reason AI.
Let's imagine a super advanced AI. Its goal, maximize the absolute good. But it can't physically interact with the world. It can only write code.
So it wants to build a perfect digital society.
It releases 2 viruses into the global network. Virus A is the thesis. Let's say it forces absolute transparency. Every email is public.
Chaos. Absolute chaos.
Right. Then it releases virus B, the antithesis. Absolute encryption. Total privacy. No one knows who is talking to whom.
So now you have a war between the two.
The viruses destroy each other. They wear each other out, as Hegel would say. But their mutual destruction creates a residue. A new protocol.
A synthesis.
Exactly. A new communication structure that perfectly balances privacy and transparency in a way no human could have designed from scratch.
So the AI used the cunning of reason. It let the finite things, the viruses, perish to achieve its higher purpose.
And if you were a program caught in that war, it would just like senseless destruction. You wouldn't see the reason behind it until the very end.
Which brings us back to our own lives. We are so often caught in the thesis or the antithesis, just feeling the friction.
But if we take the Hegelian view, we start to look for the synthesis. We look for the rationality that's emerging from the chaos.
I'm going to leave you with one final provocative thought based on that inner and outer distinction.
Go for it.
We all like to believe we have untapped potential, that we're secretly creative or kind or brilliant, even if we haven't shown it yet. But Hegel looks you right in the eye and asks, if your inner genius never manifests in the outer world, are you a misunderstood genius? Or does the text say you simply are not one?
That is the question. The deed is the actual man.
Thanks for listening to Talk Treatises.
Keep thinking.